I'm sure the state will clear up that there wasn't any court order.
If we can clear that up.
Sure. Yeah, clear that up, because I was under the impression the same thing.
Right. Agent Mackey, was it the mother and family here looking for, or law enforcement here looking for those children with the father? Who are supposed to be with the father?
That's correct.
Okay, as opposed to an actual court order?
Correct.
Okay. Now that we have that clarified, why would local law enforcement reach out to the FBI? What do y'all typically do? Do y'all work in local cases, or what prompts the FBI coming into a case?
At this point, there was concern about potential kidnapping. So we were contacted. And then in cases, we often, if we can provide assistance to the local authorities or state authorities, we also do that as well.
Can I ask you this? Were you given any real in-depth discussion of who had custody of the children or any of the family court proceedings?
No.
So you just knew you had a parent with children?
Correct.
Now, when a parent takes children across state lines, is that local law enforcement can reach out to the FBI?
Yes.
Okay, that clarifies that. But basically, you weren't given any information on custody status or anything like that?
No.
Okay, very good. So you got involved in this case. Now, what agency did you start immediately working with?
That Sunday evening, I went to the Lexington County Sheriff's Office. There I met with Detective Creech and a number of other officials from Lexington County, as well as SLED.
All right. And did y'all meet over at headquarters here in Lexington?
That's correct.
Did y'all develop a plan on who was to go to Mississippi, or did you know that the suspect was in custody in Mississippi at this time?
We knew he was in custody. We knew the following morning we were going to drive out to Mississippi and attempt to interview Timothy Jones.
Did y'all develop, you and, did you say Detective Adam Creech?
That's correct.
Seated here in the courtroom, purple shirt?
Yes, he is.
So you, he, and who else went?
Also, Dave Lawrence from SLED. He's now retired, but at that time, he was with SLED.
En route, did y'all develop a plan on how to conduct the interview?
We did.
And what did y'all talk about?
At that time, Dave Lawrence is a polygrapher. He was not going to be part of the interview itself.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Was he just there basically in a support role?
Yes, at this time, we did not know the status of the children. If a crime occurred, where it had occurred, we did not have jurisdiction at that time.
Let me ask you, did y'all determine who was actually going to be in the interview?
Yes.
You and Adam Creech?
And Detective Creech, that's correct.
All right. When you get down to Mississippi, did you meet with Sheriff Crumpton?
I did.
Saw him testify earlier.
I did.
And did you meet with officials from MBI, like Eric Johnson?
Yes.
Now, when you went in, were you aware also the father, Tim Jones' father, Tim Sr., was still in Mississippi at that time?
Yes.
Did y'all make a decision whether to take him into the interview or not?
We did. We were not going to bring him into the interview.
Why was that?
Essentially, my plan that day was to convincingly accuse Timothy Jones of what he had done to attempt to locate these children. So as part of that, I did not plan to bring his father into the interview.
Prior to asking Mr. Jones any questions, did you go over his rights?
Yes.
Did you use anything to assist you in doing that?
Yes, I did. I had a Waiver of Rights form from Lexington County that I had obtained from Detective Creech.
Whoa. I'll show you what's been marked States Exhibit 144. look familiar?
Yes, this is the advice of rights form that we provided to Timothy Jones that day.
Okay. Your Honor, I offer this into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor. I'm supposed to say, subject to our previous motions and objections, Your Honor.
Oh, yes, sure.
Agent Mackey, if you would, can you please, for the jury, show us how you used that form and how you went over that form with Mr. Jones?
Sure. When Mr. Jones came in, we had greeted him, we had shook his hand, he had sat down. At that point, I began reading the advice of rights form to him. I would read each right, and at the conclusion of that, I would ask Mr. Jones if he understood that right. Would you like?
Could you please
Sure.
just like you did with him?
Sure. Before we ask you any questions, you must understand your rights. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. I asked him if he understood that. He indicated he did. You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before we ask you any questions and have him or her present with you during questioning. Again, he indicated he understood. If you have no money for lawyer's fees, the court will appoint one to represent you without cost to you if you wish. He indicated he understood. If you decide to answer questions now without a lawyer present, you will still have the right to stop answering questions at any time. You also have the right to stop answering questions at any time until you talk with a lawyer. Again, he indicated he understood that. I then went down to the waiver of rights portion of the document. I told him these were his rights. Now, this would be him waiving the rights, agreeing to speak with us. This says, I am willing to make a statement and answer questions. I do not want a lawyer at this time. I understand and know what I am doing. No promises or threats have been made to me, and no pressures or coercions of any kind have been used against me. After I had done that, we had asked Mr. Jones, you understand all this? He says yes. He does not want to sign at that time, but he indicates he will talk to us, and he says, I know I will be self-incriminating myself. And at that point, we continue forward. We continue to ask some background questions of him.
As you ended up asking questions, did at some point he reach over, pull that form over to himself and sign it?
He did, yes.
Did you see his signatures on both the waiver and the rights?
I do.
So down at the bottom, where it has witness, whose signature's on the top?
That would be my signature.
Below that is whose?
Detective Adam Creech.
The date is 9/8/14, is that correct?
That's correct.
And the signature under advice of rights and waiver of rights, those signatures are whose?
The defendant, Timothy Jones.
Where was this questioning being conducted? Where were y'all?
We were at the Smith County Sheriff's Office. We're on the second floor in a room previously described by the MBI investigator that you had heard from previously.
Was it a casual, polite atmosphere that you were engaging in with Mr. Jones? Or when you first brought him in and started talking to him?
Yeah, when he first sat down, we went over the advice of rights. At that point, I began going over some of his background information. I began asking him about his employment history, where he worked, what he did. He told me he worked at Intel. He told us this, and he stated he made approximately $80,000 a year. He was a computer engineer, educated, had thoughts of going on to medical school. So we talked about these issues before moving into his health. We talked both about his general health and his mental health. He said he was not under the influence of any alcohol or drugs at that time. He stated he completely comprehend what was going on. He understood what was happening. As far as his general health, he talked about having an ulcer and some Crohn's disease. As far as his mental health, he mentioned his mother, and he thought that he might suffer from the same mental illness that she may have.
I asked you, at that time, was he exhibiting any issues?
No, he was certainly very, his answers were very logical at that time and completely made sense to us.
Now, when he said he had not been using any drugs at this time, he wasn't high at the time, did you see anything to indicate he might be under the influence of either drugs or alcohol?
I did not.
Did you see anything showing that he's now off and maybe going through withdrawals, like the heavy sweating or anything like that?
I did not see those signs.
No foaming at the mouth?
No.
All right. Now, once you get down to the meat of what you're asking, what, if any, change do you see in his behavior?
So ultimately, I began asking him about his children, and immediately his demeanor changes, and he starts talking about his two boys, Nahtahn and Elias, that both these boys had made statements. Nahtahn, according to Timothy Jones, made statements that he wanted to kill his father, and Timothy was talking about the children basically colluding against him, and they had it out for him. So he was acting as if he was afraid of his children.
What did you do?
Upon hearing that, I let him know that I did not believe that, and I began confronting him with some of the information that I had with me that day. What I first do is I put down the Walmart receipt that you have seen, and I ask him to start reading off for me what is on that receipt, and he is reading off about the saws, and I ask him, what is this for? And he tells me it's to cut tree limbs. He's reading off the muriatic acid, the goggles, the 5-gallon bucket. He is telling us this is to etch PVC. Again, I'm telling him, I don't believe this. I go to his handwritten notes. He says these are his notes. This is his writing. But he claims he does not recall writing this. He doesn't know what it's about. But he reads off for us exactly what he wrote down about sanding down the bones, dissolving and discarding the bodies. He reads this. He denies knowing what any of that is about. I go into the biological evidence.
Can I stop you for a moment?
Yes.
Let's just talk about the note. Is this the note, State 79?
It is.
You see that, Agent Mackey?
Yes.
All right. Is this part of the portion of the note that you were confronting him with about melting the bodies, sand bones, and the dust, or small pieces? Is that part of what you were confronting him with?
Yes, and he read that off to us.
So he admitted everything on this form,
He did?
his handwriting,
Yes,
but he didn't know what it was.
that's correct.
That includes the section down here, day 1, burn up bodies, day 2, sand down bones, day 3, MB, dissolve and discard smiley face.
Yes.
So that's right in front of him. He admits he wrote it. He just says he doesn't know what it was about.
Yes.
What do you confront him with after that?
Yes, and he reads this off matter-of-factly to us, denies knowing what it's about, but he admits he did write it.
So he just reads it like a list?
Yes. He reads it down for us. I point to areas, and he reads it. Some of the handwriting there, he didn't know what it was, but the parts that we just went through, he was able to read off to us. I then confront him with the biological evidence and talk about the blood in the vehicle. And he tells us that blood is from an animal. And Detective Creech lets him know that that blood has tested positive for human blood. Timothy says it came from a cut, that he had cut himself. It's from a cut. And we let him know there was a large amount of blood in that vehicle, that what he is telling us does not make sense. I then began laying down photographs of his children.
These are the same photos that we have been seeing, you know, for some time of him with his kids? Or
Yes.
individual kids?
Yes, they're individual photographs of each child, and I began laying those down in front of him. And he had a big reaction to seeing these photos. He began crying heavily, and he began saying, "Keep them away from me, get them away." He had previously maintained that he had dropped them off at Walmart, so he had this reaction to the photographs of the children.
Let me get this straight. He's sitting at a table, you lay these in front of him, and he steps back saying, "Get them away from me. I'm afraid."
Yes.
But isn't it true, Agent Mackey, that we had just found photos of those same children in his car?
Yes, I did not know that at the time, but yes, that's correct.
But we all knew, you knew, certainly at that time, those children had been in his car as well.
At that time, I did not know what had happened. We later find out. But I suspected, he said he had dropped those children off, and now he was acting as if he was afraid when he saw the photographs of his own children.
Okay. So how did this reaction strike you?
I thought it was consistent with his behavior before. He was lying about everything put in front of him, and I did not believe his reaction to these photographs.
So once you let him know you weren't being sucked in and buying that reaction, what did you do to carry on this conversation?
I go back to the Walmart receipt, and I go back to what he had purchased, and I let him know that this seems consistent exactly with what his notes say, that this is consistent with dismembering and discarding bodies. And I ask him to read off the notes to us again. And at that point, he says, "Let's cut to the chase." And at this, he says that.
Now, up to this point, had he been emotional?
Yes, just previously he was. When he saw the photographs, he was very emotional.
When he said, "Let's cut to the chase," what was his demeanor?
It appeared the weight was lifted off his shoulders, and he began logically walking us through what he had done to his children.
Does he take you back to the night of August 28th, 2014?
He does. He says there's large parts he would not remember. When I went into the interview, what I had known is the last time Timothy was seen with his children was that Thursday, August 28th. So we went back to that day. And he walked through with us how he had essentially picked up the children, how they got to the house that day. And that evening, he began having a confrontation with his son, Nahtahn. 4 outlets in the house had been blown. And Timothy was confronting his son about those outlets, and he wanted his son to tell him what he had done.
How did he describe the way he confronted his 6-year-old son, Nahtahn?
He said to get his son to talk about this, he began PTing his ass.
Those were his words?
Those were his words. We asked him to clarify, what does that mean? He said he had his son do push-ups, squats. I asked him, did you use your hands at all? And he said that he did hit his child, and he was spanking him. He denied using any objects or anything of that sort to strike him, but he did this for hours and talked about his son being defiant. Again, his words, and his son would not come off of it.
And were those his words, not come off of it?
Yes.
What did he say happened then?
He said after doing this for hours, he sent his son to bed. He claimed he knew that he had pushed his son too far, and when he checked on his child, his son was no longer breathing.
What term did he use? Describe his son was dead.
He said that he was deceased. He told us previously, once he said he's going to come off, and he told us we were not going to find them, and he said that they were deceased.
So all the kids were deceased?
All the kids were deceased, yes.
So going back to the house, did you say this happened in Red Bank at his residence?
That's correct. That's correct, in the living room.
So going back to Nahtahn, he checks on Nahtahn. Nahtahn is dead.
Yes.
Did you confront him about that?
I did. To PT a 6-year-old to the point where they die is something.
Speculation?
Based on your
Rephrase the
experience,
question. I sustained the way it was presented.
your follow-up with him, based on your experience as an officer, how did you follow up with him, and why did you follow up with him on that issue?
I asked him if there's anything further he did to his son. He denied this. He repeatedly said it was not premeditated, that this was an accident with Nahtahn. He claimed that it was the PT that did this, that I asked him specifically that he used a pillow to place over his son's head, anything of that nature, and he denied this. He denied using any objects to strike his child with. I asked him, why would you, after being so angry at your son, go in to check on him? And he told me he knew he had pushed his son too far. That's why he went in to check in on him.
Is that why you followed up, because of the fact that he said he pushed him too hard?
Yes.
What does he say he does after that?
After that, I apologize. These are his words. He said, the voices in his head, fuck, no one is going to believe you. So he was going to have to kill the remainder of his children. He talks about going to the oldest son first, Elias.
Tell me this, does he give you the order, before we get into actually what happened, does he give the order in which he kills his children?
He does.
So he can remember which child he killed, which one he went to next, and next, until they're all dead?
Yes.
What is the order of children that he gives you?
He first goes to his son Elias,
And then,
Merah Gracie,
okay.
the two oldest, and then he goes to the two youngest, Gabriel and Abigail or Elaine.
Before he does that, does he indicate to both you and Detective Creech that Elias and maybe even Merah know what's coming?
Yes. The children were afraid. They knew something bad had happened, and he mentioned both of them struggled. He first went to Elias and asking him, how did you kill your son? He used his hands to strangle his child.
Can I ask you this? When he strangles Elias, what, if anything, does Elias say to his father?
According to Timothy Jones, Elias says, Daddy, can I come with?
Doesn't finish that sentence.
Not to my knowledge. Again, this is what Mr. Jones had told us.
Daddy, can I come with?
Yes.
Does he say he chokes and kills Elias?
He does. He chokes his son to death, and his son struggles as he's being strangled.
Who does he go to next?
Next, he goes to his daughter, Merah Gracie, and he kills her in the same manner.
What, if anything, does Merah say to her father?
So according to Mr. Jones, Merah Gracie says before he strangles her, "Daddy, I love you."
Then he strangles her.
He strangles her in the same way, and she struggles as well.
When you asked about whether the children resisted, what was his comment?
He basically stated that, wouldn't you, if you were strangled? So he appeared to think that that was a normal reaction from his children.
Who does he go to next?
Next, he goes to his son, Gabriel,
2-year-old.
the 2-year-old, and he says basically his hands were too big to strangle the smaller children. Initially, he told us that's what he did, but then he corrected himself to say he had used a belt, and he placed the belt around their neck, and then he had showed us how he had pulled the belt taut to kill his son.
He actually demonstrated it.
He did, yes.
And the youngest 1-year-old, Abigail,
Yes.
he says the same thing.
And then he goes to her and he kills her in the same manner with that belt.
Going back to Nahtahn, when you ask him about Nahtahn, and he's disciplining Nahtahn and says he's gone too far, at this point, after he says, let's cut to the chase, does he talk about being afraid of Nahtahn or any of his kids?
I do ask him, and I confront him with this. After we hear this story, I ask him if this is about being afraid of your son, or is this about your son not coming off of it? And he states this was about his son not coming off of it. His son would not tell him. His son wouldn't tell the truth about those outlets. And he lets us know that had Nahtahn come off of this, none of this would have happened. All the children would still be alive.
Get this straight. He said if Nahtahn had told the truth, none of his children would be dead.
That's correct.
He blames Nahtahn
He did, yes.
for the death of his siblings as well.
Yes.
Again, how old was Nahtahn?
He was 6 years old.
After all 5 children are dead, what does he say he does with his children?
He states at that point he wraps their bodies up in their bed sheets and he takes them out to his vehicle, the Cadillac Escalade, and he begins stacking up the bodies behind the driver and passenger seat and that back floorboard. He starts stacking the bodies up there. I had asked him about a piece of tissue or scalp they found in the car. He states that he was not careful with these children, that they were already dead. So he takes their bodies out and he stacks them up. He said at that point they were already dead. So he does not know if that could have happened when he had placed the children in the car, or if it was possibly from the decay. So he was not sure where that came from, but he denied that he had done anything to cause that injury.
So as far as that piece of tissue that was found in the vehicle that you referred to as possibly scalped. He didn't know where it came from, but he does admit once these kids were dead, he didn't handle them with any kind of care.
Correct.
While he's talking, is he still clear and coherent?
He is, yes.
What else does he say at that point?
We asked him if he was under the influence at that time and of drugs, and he said no, but afterwards he began using spice to calm the voices in his head. And he began after the children were dead. And he began formulating plans at that point of what to do. And he made plans to dispose of these children's bodies.
Did you talk to him again about the note that you confronted him with earlier, which is states 79?
Yes.
When you presented him with that again, did he remember now?
He remembered some of the notes. He still stated to us he didn't know what it meant, but he said these were some of the ideas that he had come up with, that he had devised in order to discard of the children's bodies. He said ultimately he could not bring himself to go through with it.
Does he admit that's why he made the purchases he made at Walmart?
Yes.
The jab saw, the bucket, the acid, all those items?
That's correct. His plans were ultimately to dismember the bodies and to discard them.
Did he also admit that's why he bought trash bags and bleach?
Yes. Now, with both those items, he did state it was because of getting rid of the bodies, but he also stated with the garbage bags that he also had other trash in the car that he was going to get rid of. But he did state he bought those trash bags to place the children in.
Did he address with you while riding around, and as these children, did he place them right behind his seat?
My understanding is he laid their bodies across behind the driver's seat and the passenger seat, so they're laying on that floorboard there. They were all stacked up.
Did he describe with you at some point they began to decay and how he dealt with the smell, what he did?
Yes, we knew there was clearly a strong odor. And he did state he had air fresheners, but he ultimately said, you get used to it. So he had gotten used to the smell.
Even though that smell was coming from his 5 dead kids.
That's right.
Again, was he still being very lucid and clear with you?
He was.
Did you at some point ask him, how do you feel about doing this?
I did.
What was his response?
Again, these are his words. He did state that part of him felt bad, that no dad should ever do this to their children. Part of him said, fuck it, they're already dead.
Going back to the beginning of this interview, was it your intention and the intention of Investigator Creech to tape record this interview?
It was.
At some point during the interview, did it become clear to you that the tape recorder was not working?
Yes.
Did either one of you have like a government issued tape recorder, or how did that go?
No, while we were traveling to the Smith County Sheriff's Office that day, Detective Creech had received a call and was advised to pick up a tape recorder. Neither Dave Lawrence nor Detective Creech nor myself, we did not have a recorder with us, so we had stopped by to pick up a recorder. We had brought that in with us. We had let Timothy know that we were going to record this conversation and that he could voluntarily say no to that, but he agreed to that. During the course of the interview, we ultimately get to a part where we're trying to locate where the bodies might be, but we had noticed that the recorder was not recording at that time. So at that point, we did a summary tape statement. We turned the recorder on, and we went over some of the things we had previously discussed.
He was aware that the tape recorder had not worked.
Yes.
Did he make a comment about it?
He did, yes. So he, on the recording, you'll actually hear him talk about this, that this is essentially, I think he says part 2.
Is anything changing? When he said, let's cut to the chase, and gives you this full story, and then you get to where you realize that tape recorder's not working. Once you put the tape in and get it going, is there a change in his responses?
I think the biggest change is we had a questionnaire that was asked of Timothy Jones, and on some of those answers, he reverts back to some of his earlier statements of him being afraid of the children.
Does he start talking a lot more about voices?
He does. He talks more about voices in his head, seeing people in the room, and that's on there.
This questionnaire, is it something you've ever used before?
No.
Was it something that Detective Creech said he uses, and that's why it was utilized that day?
No. Neither one of us had seen that questionnaire previously.
Is it something that was sent to Detective Creech, where he was directed to ask these questions?
Yes. During the interview, what we find out is Lexington County is certainly going to have jurisdiction. That's where the homicides occurred. So during the course of that interview, that questionnaire was provided to him, and he was to ask those questions, and that's what happened.
And you have captured that report for that recap?
Yes. Detective Creech actually had possession of the recorder.
I'll show you what's been marked states 145. See if you can identify that as DB or CDB of the safe.
Yes, that's a copy of the recording of the summary tape statement.
Offer this into evidence.
We would request that the unredacted record. I understand that thing has been redacted and
Side call. Side call. This interview, as you got into the interview with Tim Jones, did there seem to be a difference in how he responded to you versus?
Timothy Jones walk us through that. I began walking him through that.
Okay, Your Honor. And it states 166, Your Honor. Currently for ID, but I would offer it. Agent Mack, you have listened to that tape. You've listened to what took place, and you now have it on states 166.
Yes.
All right, Your Honor, I'll offer this into evidence.
Subject to previous objection.
Subject to previous objection, and that is the full,
Full tape, Your Honor.
okay. Not full interviews, what's, all was recorded?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they understand.
Audio recording, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. No. Apparently this wasn't on, so I just want to go over this again. When we started off here today, we did advise you of your rights. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you just state your name?
Tim Jones,
All right. What's your date of birth?
12/28/1.
Let's see if we can play it a little bit louder. Hang on just a minute. Ron.
Turn the master volume on here.
Back to that.
We did advise you of your rights. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you just state your name?
Tim Jones,
All right. What's your date of birth?
12/28/1.
All right. And you agreed to talk to us.
Yeah, we was talking, but they forgot to push the record button. So
Okay.
this is part 2.
All right. And when we went towards the end, we asked you if we threatened you.
No,
in
you
any
guys
way.
didn't threaten me.
No one promised you anything. Could you just please say it out loud?
No, nobody promised me anything.
Oh, okay. We talked about what happened with your children.
Well, no, I take that back. You guys did promise me. You guys said let me go give them a burial and try to help you out.
So
That's
you-
what you guys promised.
Promised a good burial for your children. We talked about when you picked your children up Thursday, which would have been August 28th. You picked them up from school that day, and something happened that night. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you walk us through what happened?
I questioned Nahtahn about 4 outlets that he blew. After a series of not getting any favorable responses out of him, I tried to use more harsh measures to just try to get out of him what was going on because I didn't know what he was doing. I seen 4 destroyed outlets. Is it for me, him? Was he curious? I just didn't know what was going on, and I was trying to make sense of it. I worked him too hard, or maybe it was a combination of the electricity. I know electricity takes electrolytes out of your body. Something happened. It was out of the ordinary, and he wouldn't tell me. If I would have known it, I mean, I would have gotten medical help, whatnot, but I don't know what he did, and he didn't tell me. I didn't see any burn marks on his body, so that's why I didn't rush him to the hospital. So after the fact, he was deceased.
And then what happened to him?
How did he get deceased? What did you do?
I sent him to bed after I worked him real hard because he wouldn't answer me.
And what do you mean by working him too
I
hard?
just PT'd his ass till he couldn't handle it. Tried cracking him on the butt a couple times to get something out of him to tell me what was he doing.
Right.
What's his motive?
And when you're saying PT, and what are we talking about?
Squats and push-ups.
Squats, push-ups. And how long were you having him PT?
I'm PT like an hour. Like I said, there's nothing out of the ordinary. Those kids would do insanity with me. We had fun doing it.
And where did he go from? You're doing this where in the house? Where you
This
PTing
was in
him?
the living room, and then I finally got tired of it and sent him to bed.
Okay.
Your ass to bed. You're not telling me the truth. I can't help you. Go to bed, man. You're wasting everybody's time.
And then you find out what?
I come back and find out that he's deceased. And when I find out he's deceased, then the shit hits the fan and all.
How does the shit hit the fan, Tim?
The voices start going off, and then here comes the paranoia. Oh shit! What just happened? What just happened? This ain't gonna go. I can't call. But I got all these voices running through my head now.
And then what happens, Tim? What did you tell us earlier? So Nahtahn was dead, and then what happened?
And I followed suit with the other four.
And how did you
Said
kill
that
them,
was
Tim?
with my hands
With your hands? Can you describe what you mean by with your hands?
around their neck.
Around their neck? Okay.
Who was next?
I'm just gonna put the order so I don't have to go into too much detail.
Okay. Just tell us the order.
Nahtahn, Merah, Elias, Gabriel. Wait. Nahtahn, Eli, Merah, Gabriel, Elaine.
And when did you say this was, Tim? What date? You told us earlier.
Thursday, I think. They were supposed to go to school Friday and they didn't go because, well, they couldn't go.
Yeah. And you said also that this happened where?
At the house,
Can you tell me what that address was?
2155B, South Lake Drive.
What county is that in, Tim?
Lexington, South Carolina.
Lexington, South Carolina? Okay.
Where in the house did you say these happened at? In the house?
The bedroom, or not bedroom, the living room.
Okay. What did you do earlier? You said when you would strangle them. What would you do with the bodies at that point?
At that point, I was just running on fear and I wasn't thinking. Any normal person would have said, let me call the police and just turn myself in.
Okay.
I took the coward route and started following those voices in my head, which led me down such a nice path I'm on today.
And what did you do then
What do you mean?
with the bodies?
I put them in bags and threw them on the hill.
Okay, no. When you're at the house,
Oh, load them. I just load them in the car.
did you put them in the bag at that time?
I don't know.
Okay.
I was just 5 dead puppies.
You put them in the vehicle. What type of vehicle was that?
Cadillac Escalade.
All right. And what do you do from there?
I started driving out of fear.
Tim, tell us, what was your original plan to do with the bodies? Now that we've had a chance to talk about it.
I don't know what my original plan was. I had so many thoughts going through my mind.
What were some of them? Because you wrote some notes and you bought some
I had
supplies.
100 different thoughts about what I could do.
Okay.
I don't want to sit and incriminate myself, but
No,
I
you're fine.
had a bunch of different things. I've wanted.
We went over this, but part of your plan was to do what? The bodies.
I think originally I intended to go do all that stuff that I wrote down on the paper, but
Which
then I
was
couldn't
what?
bring myself to it. I was
Right.
gonna try
What was it?
to do stuff to just get rid of the corpse.
Do you remember what step one was?
Like dissolve them or something like that. I was gonna cut them up. And I was gonna do all kinds of stuff.
Did you write down that you were going to burn the bodies?
I think I was gonna burn them. Yeah.
And you were going to, what was step two?
Boil them, or I forget what it was. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I don't remember everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you write that you were going to...
I wrote stuff down that it was in the context of that time, but
All right. Was it something that you were going to cut the bodies up?
something I could bring myself to do. Yes.
All right. Let's... Let's take a look
All
here.
right, Tim, while he's looking that up, I also want to clarify when you last saw Christina, your next door neighbor.
Oh, when I last saw her, the kids were actually still around.
She said she spoke to you on the 2nd.
She talked to me. Yeah,
talked to you on the second.
when I last seen her.
And the children, so she talked to you on the phone then? Okay. And the children were
And
deceased then?
I lied to her and told the kids, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I want to go through this real quick with you. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but we went over this. What is day 1?
Burn up bodies.
What's day 2?
Saw down bones.
What's day 3?
MB smiley face. Dissolve and discard.
Okay, so your initial plan was to do these things with their bodies.
That was one of them. I told you there's other stuff. That just happened to be the one that's materialized. I had a million thoughts going through my
Okay,
mind.
let's go over this. This is what?
Head to the campground, no bodies, and send bodies to dust or small discard by a sanitation plant.
Okay, so these are some of the things that were going through your head?
That's just a small amount of stuff that was going through my head, yes.
Did you write this before or after you killed the children?
After.
After?
I wasn't premeditating this, no.
Okay.
This was not premeditated. This was a, oh shit, what just happened?
So you had the bodies in the vehicle. Did you write this in your house, in the car? Where did you write these notes?
That was on the back of a clipboard in the house, I think. Yeah, I would think that would have been in the house. I'm not good at writing and driving.
Okay. Did you do this before or after you put the bodies in the car?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I'm sorry, those details I don't remember.
Now we had also gone through some of what you went and purchased, and specifically at the Walmart. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if I can find the receipt for that.
Drug of choice, nicotine.
What did you purchase at the Walmart?
I don't remember. Which Walmart?
This would have been the one in West Columbia.
Close the receipt, I don't remember.
Okay. Did you buy a saw there?
Yeah. Oop.
Okay. Did you buy? Let's go over this receipt here. This receipt is going to be from Augusta Road in West Columbia.
Okay.
All right. And the date here is 9/3. So this is after, because what happened to the children was on Thursday.
What day was that?
Is that correct?
28th.
That's the 28th.
That makes sense.
Now 9/3, this is on Wednesday, so this is after the weekend. And where have them children been the whole time?
With me.
Where?
Drive around in a vehicle, I think.
Where are they though?
They're with me in the car.
Okay, they're all in the back?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, in the middle, not back. So back implies the back where you open.
And
I
you,
see.
told me earlier you had them covered up in some sheets or blankets.
Yeah, I do blankets and a shitload of air freshener.
So you have their bodies there. You go in and you purchase what? Walk me through what you're purchasing here.
I don't know what that rose.
All right. What's this?
A dusk mask.
This is actually Gatorade, but
Oh.
dusk mask,
Some goggles, and some hand saws,
some jab saw, it says,
and a multi-saw.
multi-saw. What's this here?
Some muriatic acid,
And what's this here?
I think a 5-gallon pail.
All right. Were you purchasing this stuff at that time because you initially thought you might be able to go through with this?
Partially, and then I couldn't bring myself.
You just couldn't do it. Okay. So one of the next receipts we kind of talk about is going to be several days later.
I had these thoughts in my head to try to do this, and then I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Okay. Now we go to the following day. This is going to be the 4th. This is at the Dollar General store, and we're still in Orangeburg, South Carolina. What do you purchase there that we spoke about?
Excuse me.
What's this here?
Some trash bags.
Trash bags. Why'd you buy those trash bags? To do what now? To put the bodies in.
Okay, but then to throw some of my own trash out too.
Okay.
I had a lot of stuff in the vehicle I was trying to throw out.
Now, you said you're just driving around, you have the bodies in the car, and where are you going at that time?
Nowhere, I guess, because in my mind I'm just running. I have nowhere to go.
Because you didn't plan this.
I didn't plan this. No, it's just like
Spontaneous.
This is spontaneous, and I just fucked up my whole life.
Okay.
One bad incident, and I'm not following through with what I should have, and I.
Now, we spent some time really trying to figure out where your children are at.
Yeah.
What did we kind of come up with?
Looking somewhere on Route 10 between, I think, Greenville and Campbell.
Well, let's go back to September 5th, Friday night. What did you tell us happened Friday night?
September 5th.
That was when you said your vehicle got stuck?
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
I pulled off to the side at somebody's house to try to collect myself to see where I was at.
Yeah.
And in the process of pulling back onto the road, I got stuck in a
You
ditch.
got stuck, and what happened?
The tow truck had to come out. He called a wrecker.
All right. Did you have any law enforcement contact that night?
A law enforcement just showed up on his own. He was patrolling, and
Okay. Can you describe what he looked like?
probably about maybe 5'10", shaved hair, Caucasian male.
Okay.
When you have contact with this officer, where are your children?
In the car.
Okay, they're dead in the car.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and they're still where you set them.
Yes, sir.
What's going on in that car since they've been sitting for so long? I mean, you killed them on Thursday.
No, they weren't sitting there. Some of the time I took a couple days and just stayed home.
Okay. Did you leave them in the vehicle?
Or were they in the house at that time?
I think they were in the vehicle and I was just sitting there.
Not what you think. We want to know
No, I
what
mean,
the
I
truth
believe
is.
I believe that they were in the vehicle.
But you're
and I was-
talking about the weekend it happened.
Yes, and I was just sitting there thinking, oh, what am I going to do?
Okay. Well,
Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Does this tie this together? Because that's I'm trying to tell you what I know.
sure.
Yeah,
So
Tim.
all I'm saying from that Thursday, though, the 28th, and you say after all this happens, you place their bodies in the vehicle.
Yes.
Between then and the time you come in contact with the officer, and that would be Friday on September 5th. So we have over a week's time that has passed by. Your children are still in the vehicle. Is that correct?
What date?
Friday, when you have contact
Yeah,
with
so
the
the
law.
next Saturday was, yeah.
Okay, so they're in the vehicle the whole time. What's kind of happening in the vehicle? As far as how does it smell in there?
Stink like shit.
What's happening with the children? You were telling me before.
But the blood was probably just coming out of their bodies because I just left them in there. And I believe that, well, as far as I know, I think when your body dies, blood and water separate. I think that's...
Now, we had asked, because you purchased the saws and everything, had you used any of the saws on your children?
I think I tried to start on Nahtahn and I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Okay. And we'll get to where that happens. Had you tried with any of the other children?
Mm-mm.
No?
He was kind of the whole center of this thing.
Mm-hmm. He's what kind of started this all.
He triggered this all.
If he would have told you what happened to the outlets that night,
I would have went and acted appropriately to try to help him.
none of this would have happened.
I think he didn't tell me because I think it was intended for me. I think that's why it would make sense for him not to tell me.
So let me ask you, so you have contact with the law enforcement officer Friday night. The children are still in the vehicle. That would have been on the 5th.
The 5th, yes.
Saturday's when you get picked up here.
The 6th.
That's going to be the 6th. That's Saturday. But that Saturday morning, we look at this receipt. And this is where?
The Greenville, Alabama.
Greenville, Alabama. And what, do you remember what you buy there?
10 packs of cigarettes and some Zuzus and Wham Whams.
Okay, and I just see grocery, so I don't know what you purchased there.
Candy bars.
And if the time on the receipt is correct, it's telling us 8:18 in the morning.
Yep.
Your children, they're still in the vehicle with you. You're positive about that on Saturday.
Not the whole day, yeah.
Okay, at that time though.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go from Greenville, Alabama, and then the next receipt we have is Camden, Alabama. And what do you do in Camden?
I pulled some money out. I was intending to go to Vegas.
Okay. And you take out $500?
$500.
All right. Now, that time is at 1:06 p.m. At that point, were the children in your
I
vehicle?
don't believe they were. I think that they were gone.
You already disposed of them?
Pretty sure.
Okay,
All right.
so
With that in mind, can you describe to me what you were telling me earlier about where you disposed of your children at?
They're in some wooded road, log truck looking thing off on the side in bags.
Was it a 2-lane road that this was off of?
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. You said it was a heavily wooded area?
It was heavily wooded. It looked like if you went up in the area where I did, it was either like some of the trees got knocked out of the way, like people potentially either starting to clear it, or maybe somebody came through there and was bulldozing up ATV path or something. I don't know. It wasn't something that was incorporated. That's kind of what I would say. It was unincorporated.
Unincorporated.
your children, you do what once you get to this location?
Put them in bags and put them off to the side.
Okay. Tell us about Nahtahn. Does this happen there? Or did this happen in a separate place where you...
Well, you said you started to cut them.
You started.
This happened there.
Where did it happen? In the vehicle? Outside of the vehicle?
Outside the vehicle.
And what do you do?
I began to try to saw a leg, and I couldn't bring myself to finish it. I can't do that.
How far did you get?
Maybe about that far, and I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that to him.
Okay. So you did not cut his leg off.
No.
What did you do with his body?
I just put him in a bag and said, I gotta send you guys over there. I said a prayer for him and walked away.
Okay. Did you place each child in a separate bag? And then did you walk them a couple at a time or one at a time? Which is it?
A couple at a time.
Couple at a time?
Just however many trips it took to get 5 of them over there.
Now, we asked if they're going to be essentially all together, if you put them in different places.
No, I put them in the same place. If somebody didn't check the bags and they started looking in there and moving around, I don't know what. Mm-hmm. For all I know, they may not be there.
Okay.
I'm not lying to you that much. I'm telling you the truth. I don't know what happened, obviously, between where I put them and the time I'm here now. I don't know if somebody went back and...
You said they just look like they're a pile of...
5 garbage bags.
5 garbage, so it looks like they're just garbage in there. Okay. So what do you do then? Do you try to hide the bags at all?
I just put them off to the side. I knew there was no hiding bags. There ain't no hiding this. I'm going to get caught. It's just a matter of time. I'm buying myself time. I'm going to get caught.
So you don't try to hide the, in other words, you don't cover the bags up, but you go back to your vehicle, and from your vehicle...
I just drove. Aimlessly.
And then
I say aimlessly, I was in an aimless path toward Las Vegas. That's why I was doing this. And that explained me going around the major cities.
All right.
And it explains my line of travel, maybe.
Until you get here in Smith County.
And then I didn't intend to get, and then that's when everything blows up in my face.
Now, you were telling us that was actually in the car, was not spice, but they are called...
This is Scooby Snacks.
Okay.
You said locally in Lexington County, you bought those from where?
Time Warp.
Time Warp.
And what do they kind of do for you?
They calm the voices down inside my head to let me be at peace and not act on them.
They kind of give you the same high as what drug? I think you're talking about
It's like marijuana in the sense that it gives you a high, but it's not the high that I'm looking for. It's the effect of quieting this. It's medication. I know that sounds stupid as heck, but
not at all.
That's why I need to see a doctor.
Okay.
We'll go through these.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this will answer a lot of that.
Sure.
You have any other questions?
Well, what I want to do, we'll go through this, but as we've done this today, nobody has threatened you today, and we'll go over this in this forum. Is that correct?
Yes.
And do you think we treated you fair today?
Yes.
All right, you've done the same for us. Have you been completely honest with us?
Yes.
Now, one thing though, you didn't tell us about taking that saw to Nahtahn, not until we started this tape. You had not mentioned that. But I told you we're gonna perform autopsies on your children. We're gonna find them. Mm-hmm. And you're telling me the 4 children, 4 of them, we're gonna find out that they were suffocated. Now you're grabbing your hands, you're putting them around your throat. That's what you did?
Yeah.
Okay, that's how you suffocated them? Did you put a pillow over that?
No.
No. All right. If you could just say out loud what you're doing.
I use my hands to suffocate my kids.
Is there anything else we need to know, Tim, about what happened to him? Anything you may have attempted to do to him afterward?
Used a belt too.
Used a belt too? How'd you use a belt? Around their necks? Did you do that with all 5 children? No.
With who?
Who did you use the belt on?
I forget which ones.
Okay.
I used it as.
What is the autopsy going to show with Nahtahn?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Did you use the belt on him?
It's gonna. I don't know. I didn't use the belt on him. No, I came in and he was gone, and that's when I went into panic mode, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So you're not sure what the autopsy will show for Nahtahn?
I don't know what it's gonna show. I don't know what actually was. I don't know what his actual cause of death was. That's just the point. And I didn't want to go. I was afraid I was going to just get myself locked up.
Yeah.
Did you use the belt on Eli?
I don't think I did. I think it was just bare hands. I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to lie to you. Those memories are clouded.
Well, what about who do you remember using the belt on?
Babies.
On the babies?
Who were the babies, Tim?
Pardon?
Gabriel and Elaine, is that correct? Elaine is also known as Abigail, right? Okay.
And when you say the belt, you put the belt around their...
I used to strangle them.
You used to strangle. Why didn't you use your hands with them?
I don't know. At that point, I wasn't thinking. At that point, I was just thinking, run, get rid of the bodies, and you're fucked, Tim.
Were the older children, did they put up a fight?
I mean, what person's not?
Right.
You told us earlier that Eli said something to you before you killed him. What did he say to you?
Take me with, Dad.
What do you think Eli meant when he said that?
I think he just wanted to go where I was. He knew Nahtahn was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know exactly what he meant by that. I mean, I don't know where he thought I was going. I didn't even know where I was going at that time. This is just happening. It's like in my mind, I don't know what to do now.
Did any of the other children say anything before you killed him?
Gabriel said, I love you. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's a question I was gonna, we're gonna ask you here, because we've gone over all this, and you've been honest with us. Are we gonna find any of the other children cut up at all? No. You didn't try to burn them at all?
I can't breathe myself.
Tim, what
okay.
about the bleach in the vehicle when you got
to
stopped?
cover up the blood.
To cover up the blood.
I also, in honest truth, I do like bleach because it makes stuff smell clean.
So you're probably trying to get rid of some of that odor.
Not just that. I mean, no. So I would carry it around in the car even if because I liked bleach and it made stuff clean. You want to go? That was just me.
You're also willing to go with us to try to locate the bodies?
I am, but like I said, I don't know how productive that's going to be. I don't want you guys to get out there. Oh, you're pissing around, wasting our time. No, I'm not. I mean, I drive, but forgive me. Part of that's a blank.
All right, Tim, we ran through these questions earlier. You've heard them all, so there's no surprises. Unfortunately, we got to do it again because of the issue with the recorder. First question is, do you know where you are?
Yes.
Where is that?
Smith County.
Smith County? Do you know who you are?
Tim Jones.
Tim Jones, what's your date of birth, Tim?
12/28/1.
Do you know why we've been talking to you?
Trying to find out what happened to my kids.
Okay. Do you understand that you've just confessed to a crime?
Yes.
Do you understand that your confession will be used against you in court? Did you confess voluntarily?
Yes.
Did anyone threaten you if you didn't confess?
No.
Can you speak a little louder?
No.
No? What do you think will happen to you as a result of confessing to a crime?
I have no clue.
No clue? Okay, fair enough. Why did you decide to confess?
I didn't do the right thing.
To do the right thing? That's exactly what you told me earlier. Do you feel guilty about the crime which you just confessed to?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. If so, why?
I felt that I took measures that were extreme, not necessary because of fear. I fear my life because of kids.
Okay. Did you do the crime on purpose?
Nahtahn was an accident.
He was an accident.
That was really an accident. I was just trying to find out what was going on. If you look at that picture of me holding my little son, yeah, it's just a picture of me with the older one trying to say, son, what's going on? And he wouldn't tell me, and I don't know if he was messing with the stuff, and
So
the PT took him over the edge.
Nahtahn was an accident, but you murdered the other 4 children.
Yes.
Okay. Why did you do that? We talked about this earlier.
The voices started kicking and said, you better do something. You're fucking out, Tim.
Okay. What were you trying to accomplish by doing this crime?
Just trying to flee because I knew my time was short. I was going to get in trouble anyway. I'm not good at being bad. I'm not a good criminal.
When did you decide to do this?
After Nahtahn had been gone, I started listening to what was going on in my head, and I carried it out. I didn't carry out everything because if I did, I would have carried out what was on those papers. That's the stuff that comes out of my head.
What did you think about your children, just in general?
I think that they were going to have issues like me.
Issues like you? Okay.
I think that they were going to have issues from not only from a broken home. I think that there's genetic diseases I think that there was some things that my dad, if you guys had seen yesterday, he doesn't know about my mom.
Yeah.
I think that there's things I know about my mom, even though I wasn't around when that happened, because I think I've got some of what she has.
What kind of people do you think the children were when you committed the crime? I understand this is a weird question for what we're talking about, but we had to ask it earlier too.
I think they were conspiring.
Think they were conspiring against you?
It seems to make the most sense to me. I mean, why else would somebody go do something like that and not tell me what he's doing?
Do you understand that you've just... sorry, I'm getting behind myself. When you did this, did you think your actions could hurt the children?
Yes.
Yes? So you knew that what you were doing to the children was going to...
I knew that what I was going to
harm them or take their lives.
It was to protect myself.
Okay.
I know that sounds fucking pathetic.
When you did this crime, did you know it was wrong?
At the time, I didn't think any of it was wrong. It happened, and this... Fuck, I'm happenstance, and... Let me finish it up now.
Okay. When you did the crime, did you know it was against the law?
At the time, I didn't think about the law, so I'm going to say no.
Okay.
The law didn't come into my mind. I wasn't caring about the law. Dealing with dead children on my hands. Fuck the law. I'm in trouble, man. My kids are dead.
Yeah. Did you think you might get caught?
No, you're fine.
I knew I was going to get caught. I'm not a good criminal. It was a matter of time.
Gotcha. Why did you think that? Just because you weren't a good crook?
I'm not a good... Grandma's told me something that's the truth. Tim, you ain't... I told it to my kids, too. You guys ain't good, being bad, so be good.
What did you do to protect yourself from getting caught?
Just drive and try to disguise the bags. And then get rid of the stuff at the house.
What all did you get rid of at the house?
Everything. I gave the name...
You're just saying your general possessions.
Yeah, I just didn't think about keeping my stuff anymore. The hell with it.
Yeah.
I gave all my stuff away. I mean, my life's over. That's what I thought about it.
Have there been times you wanted to do something like this but decided against it?
I mean, I've had these thoughts, but none of this happened until this actually materialized. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, why didn't you do that in the past if you've had these thoughts before?
Why didn't I?
Yes.
I didn't have any reason to act on them.
No reason to act on them? Okay. Would you have done this if a uniformed officer had been standing next to you?
Yes.
Even
I wouldn't have cared. No, man, because...
elbow to elbow with you, you would have still
I wouldn't have cared, yeah. And here's why. At that point in time, I didn't care because I saw myself as a damn target. And I saw him as having a gun in his hand, if you will. I know he was a kid, but that's how I saw it. Like, shit.
And when you say him, you're talking about...
Nahtahn.
Nahtahn. And how old is Nahtahn?
6 years old.
6 years old. Did anyone tell you to do this?
The voices inside my
Voices
head.
in your head. And just confirm the voices in your head are not God.
They're not God. No, God would... No, this ain't Isaac and Abraham.
Okay. When you did this, did you know that society would condemn your actions, even if they knew everything that you know?
I mean, at the time, I sort of didn't care.
You didn't care? Okay.
Yeah, I was like... I don't know, I felt like I was marked for dead, if you will. And I was just acting accordingly.
Did you have any strange or unusual mental experiences around the time of the crime?
Yes. Of course.
If so, what were they and when did they begin?
When he told me what he said,
Yes.
all kinds of stuff started triggering, and then I worked harder to get it out of him to try to see if maybe I could put it back together, and then I realized that he's not doing this per se he's not telling me what's going on because it appears he's got something intended for me, and he doesn't want me to know that it's right for me.
Yeah.
Because normally they're pretty apt to tell me the truth, and if they don't, I give them a couple squats and a push-up, and they spit it out. He ain't doing that, which means there's some motive that he does not want me to.
Is that why you pushed him so hard?
Yes, I tried pushing more. Give me some more, a little more pressure. Maybe he'll just tell me what's going on. That's always worked before. And so the fact that it didn't work this time tells me that there was something that he didn't want me to know.
When he got pushed to his limit, did he just pass out right there? Or what happened?
He went to bed and he was tired.
He went to bed and he just never woke up?
And then I came back to check on him and he wasn't breathing. I said, oh shit, what have I done? My kid's dead in my hand. They're gonna think I murdered him. I just BT'd him. He's fucking with the owl. I don't know what happened to him. And then all sorts of stuff starts triggering in my head, and that's like the other four become a victim.
Tim, have you ever heard or seen things that weren't really there?
Yes.
If so, has this been when taking drugs?
Both, with or without drugs.
With and without drugs? What did you see or hear?
I've seen people. I've had conversations. I've started to talk with people when there's nobody in the room.
You told me shapes earlier.
I'll see shapes. Yeah, it's the strangest thing. I'll see shapes and things that materialize that aren't real.
Has this happened while we've been talking to you tonight?
Yes.
What have you seen while you were talking to us tonight?
What I see people.
What kind of people do you see?
Just normal, everyday people. I don't talk to them because if you're going to say, start talking to me, not them, dude. If you pay attention to what's going on in my cell, I get so nutty, I start talking to them.
Did this happen the day of the crime?
Yes.
What did you see the day of the crime? Did you see people?
Oh, I think you're talking about I'm sorry, this goes back to the
just
voices.
the voices? Okay.
Yeah, the voices ran rampant in my head. And there was no space for logic to talk. They were so loud that the logic was so quiet. And
I understand. Do you have any ideas or beliefs that other people think are crazy? If so, what are they?
I'm a Freemason.
You're a Freemason? Okay.
I don't know, they probably think my thoughts about exercise are nuts, but I mean, I tend to think people should take care of themselves.
Okay.
I'm old school in the sense that I think kids should get their asses busted by a teacher.
Okay.
I don't like the fact, and here's one of my problems. This is what the DSS was about.
Yeah.
When I grew up, I didn't worry about kids bringing guns to school and blowing the hell out of each other with a teacher. That didn't happen because there was a healthy fear, and you got corrected by parents. These day and age, kids bring guns to school because I don't think that they're corrected at home, and they take other people's lives because they got no respect for authority. I said, I will not let my kids go out and go blasting people away because I'm not teaching them to respect human life. So that was my whole motivation with Nahtahn, to push him, hey, dude, you need to tell me what you're up to, man. I need to know.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't tell me.
So you'd say your personal beliefs affect your actions?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true for everybody.
Yeah. I think so too.
I don't know who wouldn't be.
You know, obviously if you believe something and it doesn't affect your actions, you don't really believe it that much, do you?
Yeah, you say you do, but you don't, right?
Yeah. Do people ever have difficulty understanding you?
Yes.
If so, why do you think this is?
People say I'm really smart, and I talk at 100 miles an hour, and I'll go from one subject to another, and it seems random to them, but to me it makes sense.
I've understood you tonight. I can see how people would think that, though.
You're more understanding than a typical person. I can tell that. I got a sort of a nuance about people. You're a very people person, I can tell.
Well, I'm here to try to understand.
Well, no, I'm saying
I told you earlier.
Not all cops are that way.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why I was resistant to the other ones.
The ones that you spoke with last night. And I may have some questions for you about that. We'll talk about those in a minute. The next question, so we can get through these. Have you ever been told that you had a mental illness?
By a doctor?
Just anybody.
I've had, oh yeah, you're fucking nuts, dude. My nickname in high school was the crazy white guy.
Crazy white guy?
I'm not joking. Yeah, that was my nickname.
So people in high school told you this. You told us earlier. The military also told
The military said I was wrongly enlisted due to some wrong enlistment. I fell into depression.
Okay. Have you ever had any treatment, or have you ever been hospitalized for any of these issues?
No, I fought it.
You fought it? Okay.
I tried to.
Have you ever had a diagnosis?
No.
No? Do you think you have a mental illness?
I think something's not right. I don't know what I think I may have some, not some.
Okay.
If I'm anything like my mom, yeah, I got lots.
I got you. Were you drinking or using any drugs at the time of the crime?
No, it was self-medication afterwards.
Afterward? What did you take afterward?
Scooby snack. It was the only thing that would try to calm the voices long enough for me to collect myself, and it really didn't work because what I just did,
Yeah.
nothing was working.
Were you drinking or using any drugs when you were arrested?
I think I'd been smoking Scooby snacks.
Scooby snacks? Okay.
Speaking of that, can I have another one, please?
Another cigarette?
Yeah. Oops, still 20 bucks on my wallet. I have to buy some more.
Do you have any illnesses? Physical illnesses?
So I'm just telling you what I think based off of my experience.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm the type who doesn't really like to go to doctors, which is,
I can
I guess,
respect
a
that.
male thing.
Yeah.
I think I got an ulcer.
An ulcer?
Yeah, and the reason why is because I get those sulfur burps.
Mhm.
They like eggs, and I don't know. And then also, some foods will just do a number to my gut. I've been told I might have colitis or Crohn's. My
Okay.
digestive tract sensitive. That's why you don't see me eat much.
I got you. And speaking of eating, you still don't want anything to eat or drink?
No, I
You're
mean,
good right now?
No, I can't eat right now. As far as also, I got issues with my back because I smashed my head. I was so young. I got stuff that's out of line, and I asked them to give me They made me sleep on that hard metal thing, and I asked them if I could have a mattress because my stuff hurts, and I guess they think I was gonna hang myself with a mattress or something.
You're talking about here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But you say you're not suicidal at all?
If I was gonna do it, it would have already happened. No, man, I'm not willing to take that. I'll do a lot of stuff, but
Because you said your religious beliefs.
taking my life is not one of them.
Because what happens? You say if you kill yourself...
If you kill yourself, well, maybe nothing does happen, and maybe, Lord, I love you. Maybe God's a myth, and we die and we go to the ground. But if He's not, and it's real, well, if it does what it says, hell's not a very fun place. I don't think it plans on freezing over anytime soon. I don't want to go there.
Were you taking any medications before you were arrested?
I don't think so.
Okay. Were you taking any medications at the time of the crime?
You talking about
Like prescription medications?
So I mean, I had ibuprofen and naproxen.
Okay.
So those, yeah, but nothing like. To me, that's all I had.
Okay.
I didn't have anything
Fair
else.
enough.
That's all they gave me.
And we talked about this question earlier. Have you ever had a seizure or fit?
I don't know what the word fit means, but I think I may have had some seizures, the non-violent type.
Okay. Did you have one the day of the crime in question?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I can't say that I
Okay.
did.
Have you ever been knocked unconscious?
Yes.
Yes. If so, when?
I mean, I grew up as a young teenager in Chicago, and I had to protect myself because I'm white, and most of those guys aren't white, and they don't like me because of my skin color. And you know what that means.
And you said earlier that you were not treated for these injuries.
No, I'm a stubborn ass and don't go to the doctor unless I need to.
Is there...
I got a few things. We started off today at 17:30, or I'm sorry, 19:30, about 7:30 p.m. Does this sound right to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been here for a number of hours. It's 10 o'clock?
It is currently 10:53 p.m.
Okay. 10,
That's
yeah.
Central
so
Time.
This is
Actually,
okay. So we're going off of.
It's actually 9:55 p.m.
Okay. So we've been here a number of hours.
Jeez, what time is it?
It's 9:55. My wristwatch didn't change.
Oh, yeah,
time zones.
you're from
Yeah.
Carolinas.
Yes. And in that time, you've had a number of cigarettes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
We've asked you if you want to use the bathroom, something to eat, something to drink. In fact, you've had something to drink here.
Yes, sir.
All right. A couple things I did want to go through with you before. We had talked about when this happened, the children, when this happened in the living room, you were saying the bodies were on the ground.
Yes.
And the other kids, did they know it was coming?
I don't know. I mean, maybe they supposed. I had no clue.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't exactly in a state of mind watching. Hey, does he care? No.
Right? Did they put up a fight?
Well, I mean, what normal human's not?
Okay, and I understand you're trying to tell me they did. And what do you mean by that, though?
They didn't want to go.
What do you mean?
They didn't want their lives taken.
Why didn't you get help? Before all this, you told us you had thoughts about this. Why didn't you get help?
Just put it off thinking I'll do it tomorrow. I'll get help later.
Why not give the children to your father?
I didn't think that way.
How about to their mother?
She didn't want them. She said that they couldn't come with her if they had asked. The two of them, Nahtahn and Merah, had made a plot, and they originally got DSS involved in the attempt to. They were going to try to get themselves taken out of the house. Mm-hmm. So they made up a bunch of lies, as the lady would say. If you talk to her, they made up some stuff that weren't true, and she found out. She got to the bottom of it.
But Tim, why after things happened with Nahtahn, you're telling us that was not done intentionally?
No, that was not done intentionally.
The other four
it was done intentionally in the sense that I was trying to just get answers out of him.
Okay.
I didn't go and intentionally just go hurt him.
Why not after you had plenty of time? You have over a week's time where those children, the bodies now.
Because at that point, sir, I'm not thinking anything but I'm screwed. I'm not thinking logically. If I was thinking logically, I would have done that. But I didn't. Logic went out the window.
All right.
I didn't think normal at all. At that point, I don't know, I wasn't myself.
And after everything that's happened, you were questioned yesterday. You were questioned by the sheriff. You were questioned by people with the Mississippi State Police. You don't tell them the whole truth. Why not?
The guilt hadn't eaten me yet far enough.
All right. What you're telling us here today, is this the truth?
Yes.
The evidence that we're going to see, whether it's the autopsies or when we find the bodies, is it going to support what you're telling us here today?
Yes, barring that I don't know what else you may see, poke, stab,
Sure.
thrown in the car. But I mean, they may have some crush, something in there. You're going to find a mark on Nathan's leg.
Okay.
And
we did talk about, the sheriff had told you about a part of a scalp in the car.
I don't know exactly how that came about. It may be just thrash of me putting bodies in there.
Okay.
I don't know where that came from.
And I had asked you if there would be any broken bones and
you might find some now. I don't know as far as. So I mean,
did that happen before they died?
No.
Okay.
Breaking bones wasn't a way to me to. I mean, I wasn't using them at that point. I wasn't thinking at that point, let me break bones to get what I'm going to do done. No, I was thinking, let me go get this done and get out of here.
Well, and you know you're being recorded right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep, and you know this is voluntary, just like talking to us here today.
Okay. Incriminating myself, I know.
But after everything we've gone over, what is it you'd like to say about your actions?
God, I'm sorry. Children, I love you. I hope I see you again someday if I'm worthy to. I'm sorry.
All right, and you're willing to go with us tomorrow?
I'm willing to, but I don't know where. I don't know where to look. I mean, I know the general scenario. I don't know exactly where. I'm willing to try. So I'm telling you, I can't. I drove around with the intention that I wasn't ever going to have to go back there and look because I was so ashamed of what I'd done. I'll try. I don't know if I'm going to help you. I'll try, though. I surely will. Because they need a burial.
All right, Tim, I just got a couple of just follow-up questions here. You mentioned the police officers you spoke with last night, they could have done things a little differently when they spoke to you. Can you just tell us from your experience what you think they could have done better or worse than what they did?
If I'm being recorded, let me say this much. Let me share my experience with this. So I've done time before.
Okay.
I don't know that I've been put up there in the rubber room, no clothes, no mattress, no nothing for the whole time. I asked him for a blanket just to cover up because they cut the shower off of me. I was using that to keep warm.
Yeah.
I feel that they could have gave me clothes. I said, give me at least something. So I don't want to sound like I'm being nitpicky. I mean, I'm not the person to be nitpicky, but there's metal that's rusting. And I told them, guys, that produces tetanus. I don't want to get tetanus, and they don't care. Yeah. If I lay on that, and you can see the paint was, look. So there's the paint from that's just one. If I pull this shirt off, you're probably going to find pieces on my back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
That's the paint. Well, there's also rusted metal, and I'm afraid I'm going to get tetanus, but they won't give me any blanket or any mattress.
Well, what about the interview yesterday, though? That's primarily what I'm asking
so
about.
the reason I stiffed armed those guys is because, I don't know, they don't talk the way you do. There's something about your approach that makes it very easy to speak to you. They weren't that way. No offense, you're intimidating hell. You're an FBI agent. I'm not. So I have to talk to you. To me, you're here, and I'm way down here, and you're gonna crush me. You're the FBI. I'm just a nobody.
Well, Tim, I feel like we've had a good talk this evening, and I appreciate you
This ain't
speaking
good,
to us.
man. There ain't nothing good here.
Is there anything we could have done better in what we all talked about this evening?
Shoot, man, I've never been asked that question by you. Nah, I can't think of anything better. No.
I mean, you think we were fair to you this evening and gave you an opportunity to tell your story?
Yes, but if there's something that you could do for me, it would seriously be to contact my mother. Help me.
I'm
If you guys really want to help me, please do. I didn't tell you the truth with the intention I was going to not get help.
All right, Tim, would you be willing to speak with me in the future if I've got some more questions or some things I'd like to talk to you about?
I'm sure you're going to if you see the bodies, yeah.
Okay.
That's expected.
What do you mean?
I mean, when you see the bodies, I'm sure you're going to ask me more questions just because
But
that's...
you're willing to speak to us again if we need to speak again?
There's no reason not to at this point.
Okay. And I'm
I'm not
Detective...
accomplishing anything by withholding the truth.
Well, just for the record, I'm Detective Creech with the Sheriff's Department. I'm the case officer on this incident, and I'll be back in touch with you. I'm sure we'll have some more questions at some point, okay? And with me is David Mackey with the Federal Bureau of Investigations.
No disrespect, man, about that comment, but you really are. That's...
Mackey, do you remember the tape portion?
Yes.
Again, a couple things about the taped portion of the interview. Prior to that, had all the talk about fear of kids, had that gone away?
It was there early on in the interview, but once we got to the point where he was telling us what he did, that had gone away.
That cut to the chase, and then all the talk, the full confession, there was nothing about fear and what the kids were going to do to him.
Yes, there was no talk about fear. It was about his son not coming off of it.
Once that tape recorder, everyone realized it wasn't playing. He realized that as well?
He did, yes.
Once that tape started playing, is that when he starts mentioning fear again?
He does revisit that, yes. And you heard what he said. Tape speaks for itself.
Again, the questions, the list, there's something about a list and some of those odd questions like, would you do it if there's a police officer there? Was that a pre-formed list of questions that was supplied to Detective Creech?
It was.
During the interview or prior to the interview?
He was provided that during the interview itself.
If you as an FBI agent have been conducting this interview and you realized it's in your jurisdiction, so you're in charge, would you have gone through those questions?
I would not have.
Speculation.
Speculation. This is a man I'm asking.
I think it's a fair question, so.
No, I would not have.
As an agent with the FBI, what was your concern with that style of questioning?
Throughout the interview, certainly early on in his conversations with previous law enforcement, he was not being truthful, and he was looking to distance himself for this crime, and people often give a reason why they do something. When you look at his actions, what he did, he picks those children up that day. He kills those children. He ultimately buys things to dismember those children. He puts them in garbage bags. All those things he lies to us about. And he tells us he does this because he is afraid of those children. They were conspiring against him. But once he comes off this and he begins telling us why he did these things, this all stemmed from Nahtahn and what Nahtahn did not tell his father that day. His son would not tell his father the truth. And this is what leads to what he says was an accidental death with Nahtahn. And then after that, he does say, the voices in his head tell him, no one's going to believe him. So he goes forward and he kills the rest of the children.
And the questions that were asked on that list, did that just give him an opportunity to reintroduce the fear issue?
Yes, I think he circles back to that, yes.
Now, after everything's out, conducted the end of that interview, the taped portion, did you sit down with him along with other law enforcement and try to figure out where these children are?
Yes.
And did he assist? As far as, did y'all sit down, what, was this late in the day or early in the day?
It was late in the day on the 8th, and we did try to locate on maps, on computers, where the children might be located. But we also revisit this the following day on the 9th.
On the 8th, after he has said what he has done to the children, do y'all give him a computer or access to electronics to assist in locating those kids?
We do. He's very good with computers, and he said if he had access to a computer, he felt that he may be able to show us the location from those receipts. We knew the children would be between Greenville, Alabama, and Camden, Alabama. He knew there was the topography of the area where he had dumped the bodies was elevated, and it was a logging road, and he believed it was along Highway 10. So we were able to get him initially an iPad. He did not like that. He wanted a Mac, a Windows, that he could operate Google Maps to attempt to locate where these children were. He went into that. He wasn't able to find quite the map that he was looking for on that computer. We had maps laid down that the sheriff and MBI were able to bring in with us, and we focused on that area. And he felt that he was willing to come with us. He acknowledged that his children did deserve a proper burial. And that night, he was willing to come with us to try. He did not want to waste our time, but he was willing to see if he could identify the exact place where he dumped the bodies.
He even asked for a topographical map, something that showed elevation.
He did, yes.
The next day, September the 9th, which, to get my days straight, would be a Tuesday.
Yes.
Is that the day that everyone actually caravaned from Mississippi to Alabama to find these children?
Yes.
And he went with y'all?
He did. He was in a vehicle in front of the vehicle I was in, sitting beside Detective Creech.
Prior to heading out, was there a meeting with Mr. Jones and all those law enforcement officers who were involved before going?
Yes.
What did y'all discuss at that point?
That particular day, Eric Johnson, who you heard from before with the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations, had provided Timothy Jones an advice of rights when he was brought in. I had witnessed that. At that point, I had asked Timothy in front of the investigators just to recap on the night of the 28th, the events that had occurred, up to the point of where he had dumped those bodies. So we went through those details with the law enforcement officers there. You had SLED, of course you had Lexington County there. You had Smith County Sheriff deputies there. You had the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations. This affected a lot of jurisdictions. So they could hear essentially where the crimes were committed, what his actions were, and where he said those bodies should be located.
So he actually retold the story from throughout the August 28th, what he did to his kids and his actions following them.
Yes, I had him recap the manner and method in which he had killed the children. We spoke about Nahtahn. He did mention something new. He told us that day on the 28th, when he was confronting Nahtahn had broken his Timothy Jones's prescription glasses.
He tells you this on the 9th before y'all go and get in the car and go drive to Alabama.
Yes.
When he tells you about Nahtahn breaking his prescription glasses on the 9th, what was his demeanor?
He appeared to be harboring some anger still towards his son.
On the day that you're going to go find his body with his siblings?
Yes.
During the recap, does he mention any of the stuff about fear or voices?
No.
You rode with all these other officers to Alabama. A little bit of a journey.
Yes, it was.
When y'all finally got to the right spot, I think you mentioned or we heard like a logging road, is that correct?
That's correct.
When you got out, did you know you were at the right spot?
I did.
How did you know?
While we were driving up, I was actually on the phone with Detective Creech, and I could hear Timothy Jones saying, "This is it." And Detective Creech said, okay, he believes this is it. But when you opened the doors, you immediately could smell the decay. And David Lawrence and myself, who I rode with from SLED, knew that this was going to be the area where the children were.
Do you remember Sheriff Crumpton having his people take Mr. Jones back to Mississippi?
I do. Detective Creech went back with Timothy Jones as well.
Did you stay?
I did.
What did you do? Did you actually see where the bodies were?
I did. I had actually helped in moving some of the bodies into the body bags. We had opened up I didn't open up the garbage bags themselves, but I wanted to see if all 5 children were there. I also wanted to see if they were dismembered in any way. So I did help place a few of the bodies into the body bags and made sure we accounted for all 5 of the children.
Did you count for all 5?
Yes.
Merah, Elias, Nahtahn, Gabriel, and Abigail.
That's correct.
Agent Mackey, I think that's all I have at this time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I think we're entitled to another break. Step in the jury room, maybe back out here in a few minutes.
afternoon.
So prior to going to Mississippi, you and Detective Creech had gotten involved, right?
Yes.
And you have been brought up to speed on what information they knew at that time.
Yes, some of the information, yes.
Okay. And he had told you that he had talked to Tim Senior.
That Detective Creech did?
Yes.
I don't recall.
Okay. You don't remember that.
I don't remember that.
And you don't remember whether or not he said that he already had a suspicion that Tim Jr. had mental health.
I don't recall that as well. I know we showed up at the Smith County Jail and we did talk to the investigators who were with Mr. Jones Sr. And we did talk about some of the issues with the mother. But I don't recall if Detective Creech specifically told me that.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. You don't have any notes?
I don't.
You did write a report.
No.
You reviewed Detective Creech's report.
Yes.
But as far as everything that you're testifying to is just what you remember, right?
Yes.
And it was almost 5 years.
Correct.
You had started out your testimony saying, well, there was a violation of a court order, and that's not true, right? That's not correct.
Correct.
I don't mean to say that. I don't think you were intentionally trying to lie, but it wasn't correct.
That's correct.
You said there was something about a potential kidnapping, but that's not correct.
That's correct. Right. We didn't know at that time, but we know now that
You knew that you didn't know that there was an order from a judge awarding him custody.
I did not know that.
Okay. Your testimony today was that Tim immediately signed. You went through the advisement of rights form and he signed. That was your testimony today?
No.
Okay. Because what happened was you went through it and left it in front of him, and he signed it much later on in the interview, right?
Not much later on, but yes, you're correct. He did not sign it right away. He agreed to speak with us. He did state that he would be self-incriminating himself. But while we were asking those background questions, he did reach across and he signed both areas.
That was after you started talking to him about his educational experience and his work, those types of things.
Yes.
You indicated that you had a SLED agent, David Lawrence, who's a polygrapher. He was there with you, right?
He was. He drove actually with Detective Creech and myself. He actually drove us to the Smith County Sheriff's Office.
And he had his polygraph equipment with him?
Yes.
And he waited outside the room?
He did.
Now, a polygraph could be an investigative tool during an interrogation.
It can be.
Y'all, at the end of your interview, you thought Tim had been forthcoming with you?
With some things, yes. I don't pretend to know what truly happened in that home. I can tell you exactly what he told us.
Right.
But the only one who truly knows what happened to those children is Timothy Jones.
You didn't use Agent Lawrence?
No, we did not.
You never thought the need to have Tim polygraph?
No, we did not deploy that investigative tool.
During the interview, and obviously listen to it now, but Tim at times talked really fast.
There were times.
At times he gets loud.
Yes.
At times he's a little bit quieter.
Sure.
There was one time where he stuttered, like da 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 da.
Yes, I believe so.
He sort of will jump from one subject to the other.
Yes.
Like when we're talking about bleach, you bleach to cover up the blood. He said, well, and I always care about bleach because I like the smell of bleach. And he would just go off on these other tangents, right?
Yes, and some of that was he got garbage bags, he said, for the bodies, but also he had trash.
Right.
So yes.
He would just smash things up and wouldn't stay on topic. You would redirect him, right?
That's correct.
This thing about Nahtahn wouldn't come off of it. Nahtahn wouldn't come off of it. What really happened was that he was mad at Nahtahn. That's what you told the jury, right?
Yes, and that's what he told us, yes.
And the truth of it wouldn't come off of it was that Nahtahn had messed with the outlets, right?
Yes.
That was what Tim was telling you the truth would have been, right?
Correct.
And that Tim felt that was directed at him, right?
Yes, at times he says that, but at times he told us that these are only kids, that it would be, it didn't seem plausible
Right.
that they would be conspiring against him in any
Right.
way.
He says that directly. I mean, they're only kids. I mean, I'm telling you, I felt like you had a gun pointed at me, but they're only kids, and that doesn't make any sense.
That portion about the gun he does mention on the tape part of it.
Well, let's talk about that, the tape part. So, Tim didn't know that you weren't recording the whole thing.
That's correct.
As a matter of fact, he makes a joke when you start recording it, because he's like, I thought you were recording the whole thing, and now we got to do it all over again, right?
Yes.
And you had to do the whole interview for pretty much all over again. You skipped the background questions, but as far as like what happened with the kids, you went through the whole thing.
I think in essentially the 20 minutes, we kind of did a cursory summary of what had occurred, and then there's a good portion of time where the questionnaire, we go over that questionnaire.
For the second time, right?
Yes.
You had already done it once, and you did it again.
Yes.
And you didn't say, well, wait a minute, that's not what you told us 30 minutes ago before we started recording.
Correct.
Because he gave the same answers.
For the questionnaire part?
Yeah.
Yes.
The one time that he did mention something new was that he had cut Nathan's leg, right?
Yes.
And you said, wait a minute, this is the first time we're hearing about that, right?
Yes.
But every other statement he made, it's on that tape, you never said that. You never said, wait a minute, this is the first time I'm hearing that you might be scared of your kids.
Correct.
You never, wait a minute, this is the first time I'm hearing about them conspiring with DSS.
That's correct. I had heard that very early on, and certainly from previous.
Wait a minute, Rebecca. Now, you just said that his answers to the mental health questions, which were where those responses came from, were the same.
Correct. They were essentially the same. When he was asked that questionnaire, he essentially gives the same answers when the tape recorder comes on.
Well, you didn't start your interrogation of him with the mental health questionnaire.
No.
That was after he had said, let's cut to the chase. You're not going to find him. They're deceased. This is what I did. Went through all that. Then you did the mental health questionnaire. Then you realized the tape wasn't on. Then you went through it all again. Then did the mental health questionnaire again, right?
That's correct. And I didn't know that we even had that questionnaire. So at some point that was handed to Detective Creech, but it was nothing we had discussed, reviewed. So exactly when he was provided that, I don't know. During the course of the interview, Detective Creech stepped out once or twice to get some items or to make a call back to his agency.
Handed to him by Agent Lawrence?
Yes, I found that out later, yes.
Okay, that's where it came from.
Correct.
Let me show you what's been marked for ID as defense number 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, and 102. Ask you if you recognize those.
It's 97 through what?
102.
97 through 102.
So these are photographs of Timothy Jones's children, and there was also a photograph with Timothy Jones and his son.
Yep. And those are the pictures that you had with you in the interview?
Yes.
and you showed those pictures to him during there.
Yes,
And that's when you initially got the really reaction, like, keep away from me, get away from me, right?
yes,
But then he calmed down and y'all talked, right?
that's correct.
And then later on in the taped interview, he says, you remember that picture of me and Gabriel, right?
Yes,
He referred you back to this picture.
Has he offered these yet, Your Honor?
I'm sorry.
I have no objection if he is.
I'll put 97 through 102 in the image.
No objection.
Without objection, they're all in.
He referred back to this picture of him and Gabriel, right?
yes,
And he said, think about that picture with me and Nahtahn, right?
yes,
He said, son, I'm trying to help. Tell me what happened. Tell me what you're trying to do, right?
yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 103 for identification. Ask you if you recognize that.
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me what it is?
This is the mental state interview protocol. I believe it was the questions on this protocol were the questions that were provided to Detective Creech.
And those were the questions that he asked during the interrogation.
Yes,
During this time, we'd offer defense exhibit 103 in evidence.
I don't object to the questions, but everything else wasn't used, so until there's a foundation for that, I would object. But to the questions that were asked, I have no objection to. So if he wants to take those questions.
Prior hearing, there's more to it than just the questions that were asked. Isn't there other questions in there?
Yes, there's a couple.
And that's the part the state's objecting to, which seems plausible. So whatever questions were used, they're okay. The ones that weren't used are not relevant.
They need time later to do this, that's fine. I don't have any problem.
And the questions are on the recording.
Right.
So
They are. But I'll make this.
I'll let you manage it later. The questions that were used by Detective Creech are in.
Okay.
As that exhibit number 103, but the ones that aren't relevant will come off. And if we have an issue with that, we'll put it on the record then.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Right.
Hey, Mackie, did you review a transcript of that audio portion of the interrogation? Have you reviewed that?
I have.
And we talked about it at a previous hearing.
We did, sir.
Okay. And is that transcript of the recording accurate?
Yes, to my knowledge, yes, it is.
You know, at this time we'd offer defense exhibit number 96 in evidence.
No objection.
That's the transcript of what you just heard?
Yes, sir.
No objection. It will be
It'd be 96.
96 and without objection.
Now, going back to what Tim told you about Nahtahn and what had happened with Nahtahn, and PT and Nahtahn and spanking Nahtahn. He never said he punched Nahtahn in the head.
No, he did not.
He never said he strangled Nahtahn.
Correct. He denied doing that, yes.
He never said he beat Nahtahn to death.
No, he said he hit on him and spanked him, but essentially he PT'd him.
There was one point in time where I think it was Detective Creech was talking, and he said, so Nahtahn was an accident, but you murdered the other four, right? Do you recall that question?
Yes.
And y'all didn't go through with Tim Jones the difference between murder and homicide.
No, we did not.
Like all these jurors remember, murder is a specific allegation with malice aforethought, right?
Yes, we did not review that with Timothy
Y'all didn't
Jones.
try to distinguish that.
Correct.
And that was Detective Creech's words, not Tim's words, right?
Yes.
Bear with me 1 second.
few quick follow-ups. In the verbal, non-taped portion, when the tape recorder didn't work,
Yes.
when Mr. Jones talked about what he did to Nahtahn, did he use the words he hit on him or spanked him?
He stated that he hit on him and that he also had spanked him, both.
That was before the tape recorder was on.
Yes.
Okay. Defense asked about Detective Creech's use of the word murder. Even though there was no legal definition, Mr. Jones responded, though.
He did, yes.
And when we're talking about Nahtahn, there was talk about, through the defense, about the fear. But again, when you confronted Mr. Jones, did he say this was about fear or what?
He was stating that it was his son would not come off of it. His son was being defiant. Again, you go back to the pictures where it's laid in front of him. We soon found out after that he wasn't afraid of his children right then because he had already killed them. He had already dumped their bodies.
Thank you, Agent Mackey.
Nothing for the record.
Step down.
They called Brittany Morgan. Stanley?
My name is Brittany Pickle, P-I-C-K-L-E.
Where are you employed, ma'am?
I am currently employed at an American Lighting store in Knoxville, Tennessee,
And how long have you been employed there?
since March of this year.
Prior to that, back in 2014, well, where were you working in 2014?
In 2014, I was working at SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division.
And then at what time did you leave SLED?
I left SLED in February of 2016.
Back in September of 2014, what was your job responsibility with SLED?
My job responsibility was an agent in the crime scene unit, so my responsibilities were to respond to crime scenes as requested by other local jurisdictions or other state agencies throughout the state of South Carolina.
And did you respond to Alabama and related to the discovery of 5 children?
Yes, I did.
Would you tell the jury how you became involved in that case and how you arrived in Alabama?
Yes, I will. I became involved in this case after receiving a call from my lieutenant. She stated that Lexington County Sheriff's Department was requesting assistance from our crime scene unit to travel to Alabama to assist in the recovery of 5 deceased children that they were attempting to locate in Alabama. She provided Sergeant Novak as a contact for the Lexington County Sheriff's Department. I contacted him, and he advised me of the same thing. And I arranged to meet at the Sheriff's Department at about 1 o'clock on that afternoon, and that would have been on September the 9th. I met at 1 o'clock on September the 9th at the Sheriff's Department here in Lexington and met up with crime scene investigator Glenn Ross of the Lexington County Sheriff's Department, and he and I traveled to Alabama from here.
How long had you been over your career crime scene analyst?
I started with the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division in October of 2012.
In general terms, what does a crime scene analyst do?
In general terms, we respond to crime scenes at SLED. We only worked homicide, suicide, sexual assaults, and officer-involved shootings. So only a crime against a person. We did not work any burglaries or anything like that. So we responded to crimes against persons. And our job was to document the crime scene through photographs, through notes, through sketches, to locate any items of evidence, to collect that evidence in a manner as to preserve that evidence, and to take it to the lab and package it or process it as necessary.
When you arrived in Alabama, what did you find?
When I arrived in Alabama, I was directed to a logging road. And after traveling up that road, there were personnel from multiple jurisdictions that had arrived before I had, who directed me to a spot where the victims, the 5 children, had been located. We located them in a wooded area off the dirt logging road in black plastic garbage bag type bags.
Let me show you what's been marked as states 148 through 59. Do you recognize those?
I do.
And do they fairly and accurately reflect items that you prepared, or if they are photographs, what you actually saw the day of the
They do.
Your Honor, the state would offer these into evidence at this time.
At 148
148 through 159.
Subject to the previous
Pretrial objection. All right, admitted, subject to pretrial objection.
This is 148. Are you able to see that from there, Ms. Burke?
Yes, sir, I am.
Can you do a laser pointer? Would you explain to the jury what we are seeing on this aerial view?
Do I press the center button to make it work?
Sorry?
Center button?
Just press the center button.
Okay, just making sure. This is the highway that this was located off of. This is a Google Earth picture of the crime scene. This was the entrance from the roadway. You can kind of see this logging road right up through here is where the trees were located. I do not believe that the whole thing was built at this time, but this location right here was obtained via GPS coordinates. And that is the location that the victims were located when we were at the scene.
So if I understand, the pin mark here is the entrance off of Highway 10,
That is correct.
and the fun pack up here was where GPS type transponder, where you took GPS coordinates.
Yes, we took GPS coordinates from that spot. They are written up here in the corner there. My eyesight's not quite good enough to read them from here.
Does that help?
No, I was talking about the GPS coordinates
Well,
there.
don't publish the GPS coordinates.
Okay.
That's it, and she's identified it.
The distance between the two GPS coordinates that you took, do you know what that amount?
Oh.
That's just a bird flies, that's a phrase.
Yes, that's 711.82. I believe that would be yards there from the entrance of the roadway to the location of the victims.
Putting up states 149. Is this a sketch that you prepared?
Yes, I did prepare that sketch.
And what is it that you showed?
The sketch shows along the bottom, it shows Highway 10. To the right here is towards Greenville, Alabama, and to the left is showing it's towards going towards Camden, Alabama. Marker 6 right here is the item that we marked with marker number 6, which would have been a green in color drink bottle. And then markers 1 through 5 up here show the location of the victims.
States number 150. Can you explain to the jury what the purpose of this was?
Yes. So this is showing 4 different Google Maps here. May I refer to my notes here to read that small writing? Thank you.
Blow up on each one, but in general terms, what was the purpose?
In general terms, the purpose of this sketch was to show the location of the spot where the victims was located in relation to 4 of the closest towns. It also shows their population of the towns to show that as it was taken during the 2010 census, to show just how rural of an area that this area was.
Starting on the bottom left of the item that you prepared, what are you trying to depict here?
That was the closest town that I could find on the map, or community, and it was of Oak Hill, Alabama, and it was approximately 0.8 miles away according to Google Maps there, and the population during the 2010 U.S. Census was 26.
So looking at the map, the red dot or the red flag is what?
The red flag is the location of the victims. That's the GPS coordinate used.
And then the blue line is the highway taking you to, in this case, Oak Hill, Alabama?
That is correct.
Moving to the next closest town is the upper left.
Yes. This one is showing from the location of the victims, again, the red point up here, to Pineapple, Alabama, which was the next closest there, and it's showing that the population during the 2010 U.S. Census was 132 people.
And that's approximately 5.9 miles.
That is correct.
The next closest town is on the bottom right. Would you tell the jury about that?
This was from the location of the victims at the red dot here to Camden, Alabama, which was approximately 14.3 miles and had a population of 2,020 people.
Finally, the fourth closest city that you found is in the upper right.
This was to Greenville, Alabama, which was approximately 30.3 miles. This was over to the exit that you would get off of as you were coming down the interstate there from our direction to Alabama. From the direction here in South Carolina, you would have traveled down this interstate, and this was the next closest town there. And this was 30.3 miles, and the population of it was 8,135 persons.
First, looking at states number 151, would you explain to the jury what your photograph captures?
Yes, this photograph is starting, this is Highway 10 down here, and this is photographing up that logging road that the victims were located off of. So it's just showing you what the road looked like from the highway that you had to turn up to get to where the victims were located.
States 152, how was that in relation to the first picture we saw?
It's just as walking up that road, it's a picture a little bit further up the road there, just photographing on the way in off the highway.
States 153.
Again, the same thing. You saw that black car that you see in this picture was further in the background of the other picture. It's still just walking up the road.
States 154.
Again, same thing. These cars here could be seen in the previous picture further in the background, just walking up.
States 155.
This is, again, same thing, walking up towards where the victims were located.
The van that we see right there in that picture.
Yes.
Looking at states 156, Is that the same van we see in that picture?
Yes, it would be. As you reached up to where the road kind of took a turn to the right, there was a flat spot or a top of the hill. You got to the top of a hill and then it turned and went back down, and this van is parked up there at that top of the hill, so you can see it there in that kind of flat area.
States 157.
This is as you turn looking back down the hill, so if the van were still in the picture, it would be over in this area, and you just turned and are looking back down the hill towards the area where the victims were located.
So again, I guess, orient the jury, 157, that picture right there that we're looking at.
That's going to be past them. Down, you can see their shadows in the picture, so the van would have been back up this way, and you're down the hill looking down that way.
States 158.
This is going to be over to the left of that road as you're looking down the hill. This area with the crime scene tape marked off right here, you had to walk down through it, and the victims were located in this foliage back in there.
So going back to 157 for a moment, the area where the crime scene tape was is where in relation to that photo?
It's on in these trees over on this side.
159, 158 showed the crime scene tape. What does 159 show?
159 is just showing a picture once you get under the crime scene tape. This is what you are looking at back in that area, and the victims were located back in that area.
So the victims were found where?
Down in this area.
In front of the brush or on the other side?
I believe they were on the other side of this brush right here.
Let me show you states number 160 and ask if you recognize that photograph.
I do.
And did you take that photograph?
That photograph would have been taken in my presence, but that one would have been taken by either the Dallas County coroner or Detective Glenn Ross. I was documenting with notes as they were documenting with photographs. We were all together, just my job was notes and sketch, and their job was photographs.
Does it fairly and accurately depict the children as you found their bodies?
It does.
You want to state would offer 160 as evidence.
Subject to picture objection, they'll be admitted.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I've asked that Ms. Berg be allowed to come down off the stand so I can show the jury
Sure.
personally. If you would, Ms. Berg, if you would explain what we're seeing here.
What you're seeing is the location where we found the victims in the state that we found them. After finding the victims, I placed a yellow evidence marker on top of each bag so that we could identify which bag was located where. The photographs were taken with the yellow evidence marker. They were then marked with a piece of tape with that number on it so that when we got to autopsy, we knew bag number 5, which location it came from at the scene. So you're seeing the 5 bags with the 5 victims located there, and the numbers are just marking so I knew which bag belonged to which victim.
If you could come down to this end of the jury as well.
Again, it's the same thing. The numbers are just marking the bags so that when we got to autopsy, I knew which bag was marking which victim.
Was there evidence of any animal activity?
There was. Bag 1 was torn open. That appeared to be evidence of animal activity. There was also maggot activity, heavily present on bags 1 and 2, but you could see some evidence of maggot activity on all 5 bags.
You have a seat again. Thank you, Ms. Berg. What, if anything, after discovering the 5 bags, at that time you didn't actually know they were holders of 5 bags? Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. We knew that there were human remains in bag 1 because it had been torn open and we could see, but the other 4, we felt like that was more than likely what was in them, but we were not certain at that time.
Because you weren't certain, what did you and other law enforcement agents do at that time?
After marking the bags with those yellow evidence markers, putting a piece of tape to put which number belonged with which one, as we picked up the bag and moved it into a bag with a zipper that would then be tied with a seal to move to autopsy. While they were in that bag, so that everything was contained in that bag in case something fell out, we did open each bag just enough to confirm that there were human remains in each of the 5 bags. We didn't want to collect all 5 bags and get back to South Carolina to realize 2 of them only had trash in them or something else. So we did open all 5 bags just enough to make sure that all 5 of the children were accounted for.
After opening the bags and confirming that there were human remains in each one of those 5 bags, would you explain the process of how they were removed from that location in Alabama to the autopsy?
Yes. So, as I said, we took each child and worked with one of them at a time. We started with the bag that was marked number 5. We picked it up, we moved it into the autopsy bag, confirmed there were human remains in it, zipped the bag, and then it was sealed by the coroner's office in what can best be described as a zip tie. You put it on, it clicks on, you can't remove it afterwards unless it's cut. And that's to make sure that they know that that nobody has tampered with the remains that were in that bag from the time that it was sealed on the scene to the time that that tag is cut at autopsy. Each of those tags has a serial number on it that identifies that it only belongs on that one bag. And that process was repeated with each of the 5 victims at that point.
So after each of the 5 autopsy bags were sealed and banded, I guess, they were eventually transported back to South Carolina, correct?
They were transported to the coroner's office in Alabama. The coroner's office in South Carolina was currently en route. They were actually transported to be put in cold storage or in the morgue where they store the bodies there. Putting them in that cold storage slows the rate of decomposition, and we did not want any more further deterioration to happen between the scene and getting there. So they were taken and put there until the coroner's office from Lexington County could get down there and retrieve them. They were retrieved by the coroner's office and brought back to Lexington, South Carolina.
Once they were brought back to Lexington County, South Carolina, were you present at the autopsy of the body?
Yes, I was.
Tell the jury where that happened and who did the autopsy.
The autopsy was conducted by Dr. Ross of Newberry Pathology, and it was conducted at Newberry Hospital.
And were you present for those?
I was.
Autopsies? When the bodies were received inside the bags, were the seals still intact?
Yes, all the seals were still intact on each bag.
You were present when each autopsy was performed?
Yes, I was.
Your purpose there was to document the autopsy, is that correct?
That is correct.
To document the contents of the actual trash bags that were inside the body bags as well?
Yes.
And also to collect biological samples for identification. Is that
Yes.
correct? Your Honor, it's my understanding that the defense has stipulated to the collection of samples that ultimately led to the identification of the children, and that they are allowing us to know which child was identified as being in which bag by the numbers.
Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay, so as I understand, the stipulation is the remains that were analyzed, DNA, then be assigned to each bag to identify which child was in each bag.
Correct.
Fair enough.
Ms. Burke, let me show you states within pre-marked, states 161 through 165, and ask if you recognize that.
Yes, I do.
And did you prepare those for court today?
I did.
And do they document by number the names of the children and the contents of the trash bags and what the children were wearing?
They do.
You're going to state what I'll be using that in.
Yes. defense, the court will accept them. They're into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Burke, looking at states number 161, will you explain to the jury what this is?
This is a list of what victim number 1, Elias Jones, was recovered in, and it says he was recovered in 3 garbage-type plastic bags and clothed in a gray short-sleeve Power of One Saks Agatha Elementary t-shirt, blue shorts, and white underwear.
So when we see victim number 1, that will correspond to the one in the photo where the bodies were recovered.
That is correct.
States 162.
Victim that was in bag labeled number 2, Merah Jones, recovered in 4 black garbage-type plastic bags with yellow drawstrings. The victim was not wearing any clothing, and the victim was wrapped in a blue sleeping bag with assorted balls pictured on it.
States 163.
Victim that was located in bag number 3, this is Gabriel Jones, recovered in 3 black plastic bags, garbage-type bags with yellow drawstrings, clothed in 1 pair of patterned underwear. The victim was also wrapped in 1 Disney Pixar Cars 2 comforter and a pink Hello Kitty bedsheet. The following items were also located in the black garbage-type plastic bags along with the victim: 1 silver Bob's shoe, 1 pair of underwear with purple trim, 1 pink Hello Kitty diary or journal, 1 adult-size large t-shirt that read 3 Fountains Chiropractic, and 1 diaper.
States 164.
A victim that was in bag labeled number 4 was Abigail Jones. This victim was recovered in 2 black garbage-type plastic bags with yellow drawstrings and wearing only a diaper. The victim was wrapped in 2 blue and multicolored Disney Pixar Cars 2 sheets. 1 was a flat sheet and 1 was the fitted sheet.
Finally, 165.
Victim number 5 was Nahtahn Jones. He was recovered in 2 black garbage-type plastic bags with yellow drawstrings. Again, this victim was not wearing any clothing and this victim was wrapped in a Ninja Turtles comforter.
In addition to attending the crime scene in Alabama where the bodies were recovered in the autopsy of the children in Newberry, did you also accept the evidence that was collected by Stacy Jones from the inside of the vehicle?
Yes, most of the evidence that had not been sent elsewhere for processing, some of the electronic evidence was not sent directly to me, but the rest of the evidence that she collected from the vehicle was sent to me.
And that evidence was sealed up and actually opened in your presence and you inventoried it, correct?
Correct.
Looking at state 65 that's already in evidence, do you recognize that as a Dollar General receipt?
Yes, I do.
And that was one of the items that was taken from the vehicle.
Correct.
And let me show you, well, they thought they marked that. My bad. And ask if you recognize that bag and its contents in a household.
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize the contents of that bag?
This bag contains a box of plastic garbage type bags with yellow drawstrings that were taken from the vehicle that was processed by Stacy Jones.
Can you, Your Honor, the state would move 150-67 into evidence.
So the previous objection be admitted.
Can you open the bag and show the jury the contents of the bag?
I can. There's a roll of trash bags with yellow drawstrings, as well as the box that the roll of trash bags came out of.
And the brand of the trash bags is what?
Dollar General. Here.
So do you see the SKU number underneath the barcode?
I do.
And can you compare that to the barcode on the receipt on page 65?
Yes,
And do they appear to be the same?
they do.
One more item, Agent Burke. In addition, one of the items that you received were the 3 black belts
That is
that
correct.
came from the vehicle. And one of those belts had a broken buckle. Is that correct?
Correct.
Let me show you this item again, which has not been marked, and ask if you recognize it.
Yes, I do.
And is that the item that came in the sealed box from the Cadillac Escalade that was posted in the mail by Stacey?
Yes, this belt as well as 2 others came from the box, and I packaged them together in a separate packaging out of that box.
Your Honor, the state would offer this into evidence at this time.
Any,
Yes, sir.
any objection or subject to previous objection? Subject to previous objection.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Please answer any questions of the witness.
No questions. You may step down.
Thank you.
All right. I think it's a good place to stop for the day.